In this video we are going to go over some basic commandlets in PowerShell that we can use to configure Hyper-V, create machines, and a couple of more tasks. But before, I want to mention that if you want to follow along, you should have a server that will be your Hyper-V host. And if you follow along with my scenario, maybe that server is a virtual machine, then please check out this quick tip that is linked in the slide or in the description below to see how to install Hyper-V on a Hyper-V virtual machine. And one other note is that since Windows Server 2012 does not support nested virtualization, neither on the host or on the guest, we will only be able to create machines but not start them up. So the amount of testing that we can do is slightly limited, but you'll see that we can go over some stuff without having the machine start on. Of course, the slides and the code can be found on my GitHub account that is also linked in the description in case you want to get them. So broadly in this video we are going to cover setting some Hyper-V host configurations with PowerShell, creating virtual switches, creating and deleting virtual machines, changing settings for virtual machines, and also managing virtual disks, like creating or deleting them. So here we are on my Hyper-V server. You see that I have Hyper-V installed, but we cannot use, in my case, this command. This is only when you really have a server that supports virtualization. In my case, I followed the commands that I used in my quick tip video, which you saw 1 minute ago. Let's get to the first step. As you see here with set VM host, we can configure different Hyper-V server related settings. In this scenario, I want to set the default hard disk and virtual machine path. And the command run, and if we go to Hyper-V Manager, we can see in Hyper-V settings that what we set applied. And we can also set a couple of other stuff that you see here. For now, this is all I need. With get VM host, you can see all the Hyper-V host settings. In this view, you only see a couple of stuff. When we use filter star, it will show us actually all the settings of that Hyper-V host. Let's move on. With new VM switch, you can create different switches for your Hyper-V environment. And with switch type, you can specify one of the 3 types that are available. Let's create this test switch, which is private. And it has been created. We can see it also in Virtual Switch Manager. Here it is. And of course, with get VM switch, we see a list of switches. Basically only one, because we only created one, but it's okay for our tests. And next I want to show you a couple of commands that create virtual machines with different settings. The first one, as you may deduct, will create a virtual machine that has the boot set to CD, has a memory startup of 800 megabytes and is named test VM1. This is all that we set on it. And the machine is created, and we can see it here. And remember what I told you, at least in my scenario, in my infrastructure, I can create machines, but I can't start them up. I don't have nested virtualization on 2012. We will get to that in 2016. Let's see another scenario. So here the only difference is that I also assign at creation time a switch to the machine. Let's do it also. And in this case, this machine has the network adapter connected to the test switch, and VM1 does not have the network adapter connected. Okay, one more interesting thing. We can create also a new hard disk for the virtual machine when the virtual machine is created, as you see here. And we can also set the path to where the disk should be placed. Let's try it out. Okay, the machine is created. And you can see here the hard disk also has been created. Now, just for completion's sake, I want to show you also how to remove VMs. Let's remove test VM3. But one detail that in case you haven't used Hyper-V you may not know, when you remove a machine that had disks attached to it, you will find out that the disks are not deleted, as you see here. So why not recreate it, and instead of creating a new disk, we use this parameter to assign this machine an existing disk. Excellent. So that is it with creating and deleting machines. What about modifying settings for the machines? Yeah, we can do that too. In this first command, we can set VM1 to have 2 CPUs. We switch it to dynamic memory. We set the minimum memory, the maximum memory. We can also set what will happen to the machine when the host starts or stops. In case we set automatic startup, we want to set a delay. In this case, it doesn't matter, but I just wanted to throw this in. And we can also place some notes about the machine. Okay, I set maximum memory too low because I forgot. Let's set it to 128, for example. Now it worked. And if we check out this machine, now it has dynamic memory with the values that I set. It has 2 processors, and in start action it has nothing. In stop action it has shut down. Exactly what we wanted, or at least what I wanted with this command. We can also set the first or the boot order for the machine, like you see in the following commands. First, I define a new order like this: IDE, CD, floppy, legacy, network adapter. And then I just set this order to a specific machine. Once this is done, if I go again to settings, to BIOS, you see that it has the order that I specified. We can also, besides modifying the memory amounts for startup maximum and minimum, modify the buffer and the priority for memory for virtual machines. And one last thing I want to go over is the integration services for a virtual machine. You see these services are all true, and in the GUI, if you don't know what I'm talking about, you find them here. Well, using PowerShell, we can disable one or more. With this command, we specify which service to disable and the machine. We run it, and if we go back to settings, time synchronization is disabled. Okay, so that was modifying virtual machine settings. Let's also see how to work with virtual hard disks, since this is an important part of Hyper-V and of Windows Server 2012. Let's create a VHDX file. We can specify the logical sector size. We can specify where the file should be placed, the size of the disk, and if it's fixed or dynamic. A very important thing, because this is fixed, so it will really occupy 120 megabytes. Let's check that this really is the case. So you see, it really occupies a lot of space, even though that space is not used. And it has some overhead because of the file type. That's why it's a little bigger. But the disk is really of no use to us if we don't use it. Let's attach it to a virtual machine. We can attach it to the SCSI controller, and I'll attach it to test VM3. Let's get a list of disks for test VM3. Check it out. And if I made a mistake, I want to remove it, I can use remove VM hard disk drive. I just specify the controller that I want to remove from, and the spot in the controller where the disk is connected. And it should have been removed. And it has. Okay, so this was a very quick look of how to use PowerShell to set Hyper-V settings and create, delete, modify VMs. If you like the video, then I would appreciate a like and a share. If you're not subscribed, please subscribe to see more, and I'll see you in the next video.